about jails and the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology. So first, the word jail. So it has its origins or etymology of the word from the Spanish word jaula, which means cage. Diba? You're familiar with jaula, I think. Kasi when we say hawla ng ibon, so we know it's the cage of a bird. So it also, the term hawla actually also originated from the term kaula, which means parang hole. So yun din po yung origin ng term na hawla. And the French word giole. So gaol, no? Kapag nakikita niyo yung spelling, pero ang pronunciation daw niyan is giole. So those are the words that made up yung jails that we know that today. So what is a jail naman pala? So this is a building or place for the confinement of arrested persons. So during our discussion on the history, we all know na we started using jails during the 16th 17th century. So, alam natin na while they are awaiting for their final judgment, nilalagay po sila sa jails. Actually, same concept, no, until today. So, iba kasi yung parang jail and prison natin dito sa Pilipinas. So, magkaiba yan at madidiscuss natin yan later. So, jails are usually made up of cells, selda, which are small rooms or enclosures kung saan po nakapiit yung mga offenders na naaaresto. So, halimbawa nitong sa picture, that is an example of a jail during the ancient times. So, siguro mga medieval times to, no? Itong mga ganitong klaseng jails. So we have two types of jails here in the Philippines. We have what we call lock-up cells, and then the other one is yung mga city, provincial, or municipal jail or district jail din po. So yung mga lock-up cell, kung nakapunta na kayo sa mga police station, makikita nyo na meron silang kulungan doon. So those are called lock-up cells. So this is a security facility for the temporary detention of persons held for investigation. O kaya naman yung mga naarestong tao, that is where they are temporary being hold. So, halimbawa nitong nasa picture, ayan si Baron Geisler, no? So, isa po yung example ng isang lock-up cell. So, pag nakapunta kayo sa police station, medyo maliit lang yung mga lock-up cell na yan. And then, the other type is yun nga, yung mga district, city, provincial, or municipal jails po. So, ang mga nakakulong naman dito sa other type of jail na to is yung mga undergoing investigation din. So, undergoing trial. And then, or awaiting na mag-start ang trial or awaiting na lang po sila ng kanilang final judgment. Actually, in addition to that, yung mga nakakulong or yung may mga sentences na hindi tataas sa 3 years, so ibig sabihin they are already convicted, no? So yung mga offenders already convicted but their sentence does not exceed 3 years, sinaserve na rin lang nila yan sa mga jails, hindi na sa prisons. Kasi we have jails nga dito sa Pilipinas and we have what we call national prisons. So example ng national prison is the New Bilibid Prison. Ayan. O kaya naman is the Correctional Institution for Women. So that's CIW. So yung mga merong kaso, merong mga sentences na mas mataas sa 3 years, doon na po sila dinadala sa mga national prisons. Pero halimbawa, yes, you are already convicted, but your sentence is not more than 3 years, then pwede mo pong iserve yan sa mga district, city, municipal, or provincial jails. So those are the two types of jails that we have here in the Philippines. So what now are the categories of inmates naman? So we have two categories then. We have a prisoner and we have a detainee. So prisoner Ayan. So, kung nakikita nyo sa definition na nakaibigay dito sa PowerPoint, can you please let us know in your very own simple words or explanation, what's the difference between a prisoner and a detainee? Kahit Tagalog,
Ma'am,
it's
try
okay.
ko po, ma'am.
Yes, go ahead.
Ako po, ma'am, try ko. Yung pong prisoner, ma'am, yung natulan ng 3 taon patas ma'am, na imprisonment.
Okay.
Yun naman pong detainee, yung pong not exceeding 3 years.
Okay, so medyo malapit na tayo. Ayan, so pakidagdagan naman, Queen Burley. Thank you, Christian Usi.
Siguro ma'am yung prisoner, yung has proven guilty na talaga. Tapos yung detainee, ayun nga po, yung nasa ano pa lang siya, investigation sa mga law enforcement doon po.
Okay, so thank you so much. So another, meron pa bang iba? Guys, meron pa mga nag-test ng kamay kanina. Idadagdag pa ba tayo? Ayan, okay. So, sa prisoner, yes, tama po yun. They are already convicted. Pero hindi naman nakukulong na dapat mas mataas sa 3 years. So, as long as you are already convicted of the crime, ibig sabihin, binigyan ka na ng final sentencing, meron ka ng final judgment, ayan. So, ibig sabihin, prisoner na ang category mo. So, kapag naman, hindi pa, okay? Wala ka pang final judgment. Either you are undergoing investigation, undergoing trial, o kaya naman awaiting trial, ibig sabihin naghihintay ka na po ng trial mo, or you are waiting for your final judgment, ayan, ikaw po ay categorized as an or as a detainee. So remember ha, prisoner, convicted na. Detainee, hindi pa. Ayan, either undergoing investigation or trial or awaiting trial or sentencing sa mga detainee. Okay, so those are the two categories of inmates natin. But actually, we no longer call them yan, prisoner, detainee, inmates, no? So later on, you will know the term kung anong tawag natin. Sa ngayon, sa mga offenders na nakakulong either sa prison or sa jails. And then we have the term classification when it comes to correctional institutions. So this refers to assigning or to grouping of inmates according to their respective penalty, gender, age, nationality, health, criminal records, and so on. So why is classification important inside correctional facilities? It's because of the reason na ang population ng mga offenders na nakakulong is very diverse. Iba't ibang klaseng tao yan in terms of their age, in terms of the crime they have committed, in terms of the penalty they received, and so on. So that's why it's important to group them, ayan, to assign them to groups kung saan sila belong. So we can individualize their treatment and rehabilitation program. So let's take a look at an example. Itong si offender A, nahatulan siya ng 5 years lang. So 5 years lang sa loob ng kulungan. And then itong si offender B, nahatulan siya ng 15 years. So sa tingin mo ba, dapat na ipagsama sila sa isang grupo? Hindi po. but also for the safety din po ng mga inmates natin sa loob ng kulungan. So, we have already classified yung mga detainees natin kanina, no? So, those undergoing investigation, those awaiting or undergoing trial, and those awaiting final judgment. And then, these are the classification of prisoners naman according to their penalty. Okay? So, yan, ibasahin nyo and then I'll give an example, ha? And then let me know if they are or they belong as insular prisoner, provincial prisoner, city prisoner, or municipal prisoner. Okay? Ayan. So, first example natin. So, si offender A, nabigyan po siya ng sentence na 40 years imprisonment. So, saan siya magpo-fall under? Pag 40 years imprisonment ang meron siya, no? Terms of sentence. Saan siya magpo-fall under? Insular, provincial, city, or
Insular po, ma'am.
Insular. Okay, very good. Because that is 3 years and 1 day to life imprisonment. So kung mapapansin nyo, kapag insular prisoner, saan makukulong yan? Sa mga jails under ng BJMP o sa mga prisons under ng Bureau of Correction?
Sa mga prison po, ma'am, under ng Bucor.
Why? Bakit? Kaya niyo
Dahil
yan.
po 3 years patas yung ma'am.
Okay,
Imprisonment
very
nila.
good. Very good. So, that's correct, no? So, ang tawag sa mga nakakulong, sa mga national prisons natin, we have 7, no? We have 7 national prisons throughout the Philippines are insular prisoners. Kasi, di ba, sabi ko nga, kapag 3 years, 3 years and 1 day, ayan, pataas. Siyempre, lampas na ng 3 years yun, may 1 day na eh. So, nakukulong na po yan sa mga national prisons ng Pilipinas. And then yung provincial, city, and municipal, so sa jails po nakakulong yan, hindi sa prisons na under ng Bucor. So, halimbawa, no, ang pagkakakulong niya or ang binigay na sentence sa kanya is 7 months naman. So, magpo-fall siya under what? Classification of prisoner. 7 months. Guys?
Provincial.
Provincial or meron din tayong city prisoner. So, depende yan, no? So, sa San Fernando, we have a provincial jail. Diba? Kung nakapunta na kayo doon, kung na-try nyo na pumunta. As a visitor lang, ha? Okay. And then, dito sa Angeles, meron din tayong district jail. So, yun po. Medyo magkamukha sila kung mapapansin nyo. Yung characteristic ng provincial and city. So, sa provincial prisoner kasi, no, 6 months and 1 day to 3 years. Tapos sa city prisoner naman is 1 day to 3 years. Ayan. So, pinakamababa is municipal prisoner, yung hindi lalampas ng 6 months, yung kanyang term of sentence. So, those are the classification of prisoners natin. So, remember, ang tawag sa mga nakakulong sa national prisons, they fall under the classification of insular prisoners. Kasi 3 years and 1 day to life imprisonment. So, how about inmate naman? Inmate classification based on security. So, we actually have 3 general categories or 3 general classification when it comes to security needs. We have maximum security. We have medium security, and then we have minimum security. So, yung mga mababanggit ko right now, they are examples of inmates na naka-classify into maximum security po. First, high-risk inmates. So, these are people considered as highly dangerous and they require a great control and supervision because of their capability na makatakas o kaya naman baka itakas sila ng mga kasama nila na nasa labas. Or they have the ability to launch parang disorder or violence inside jails or prison. So these are considered high-risk inmates. So they are dangerous in a way na baka ma-compromise nila yung security kasi baka makatakas sila, itakas sila, o kaya naman mag-initiate sila ng gulo sa loob ng kulungan. So those are high-risk inmates. And then we have high-profile inmates. So these are offenders na kailangan ng increased security because of intense media coverage or public concern dun sa nagawa nilang krimen. And high-profile inmate din po sila kung kabilang sila sa mga becoming prominent people like politician, government officials, mga businessman, ayan. O kaya naman leader ng mga religious or cause-oriented group or celebrity pala itong taong ito. So kung nagpo-fall sila dun sa mga categories na yon, they are considered as high-profile inmates. So, pwede bang maging high-profile inmate ang isang karaniwang tao? Yes po. Kung yung nagawa niyang krimen is very controversial or sensationalized by the media. So, ganun po, nagiging high profile si inmate kahit na hindi siya politician, kahit na hindi siya celebrity. So, still, they fall under the maximum security po, classification because of their profile as an inmate. So, those are high profile inmates. And then we have high value target. So remember, ang mga HVT or high value target, hindi talaga sila taong nag-commit ng crime. So wala talaga silang offense na nagawa. So bakit sila kinukulong? So this is for their safekeeping actually, no? Kasi they are either a target, a person, o kaya naman an enemy combatant or a high-ranking official or a civilian possible na merong parang intelligence which is considered as confidential, and kapag na-disclose sa public o kaya naman napunta yung information na yon or intelligence na yon sa maling tao, then po parang magkakaroon yun ng threat to national security or magkakaroon yun ng malaking impact, no, sa buong Pilipinas, for example. So those are considered high value target. So hindi naman talaga sila nakagawa ng crime pero nandun po sila, no, for safekeeping. And then we have the security threat group. So ito yung mga inmate groups or gangs inside prisons or jails. So meron silang 3 or more members. So ano yung mga security threat groups natin? Yung mga merong kabilang sa mga street gangs, prison gangs, outlaw gangs, yung mga kabilang sa organized criminal group, mga aboriginal gangs, subversive groups, and terrorist organization. So we will be discussing subversive and terrorist organization. So sino yung mga subversive group? Yan yung mga grupo na parang gustong i-overthrow yung government. Ayan. So, halimbawa, no, civilian sila, tapos gusto nila na sa kanila yung government. So, nag-form sila ng grupo, heavily armed pala. Heavily armed group. So, nakulong sila because of that reason, but still, they are considered as subversive group. So, they are classified into maximum security. And then, of course, syempre, yung mga terrorist group, no? These are groups that committed the following: either piracy and mutiny in the high seas or Philippine waters, rebellion or insurrection, coup d'etat, and other similar activities. So those are considered as terrorist group. And then, under maximum security classification din po is violent extremist offender. Yan yung kapag yung political or religious belief niya is to the extreme niya, parang hindi naman isinasa puso talaga, no? Parang sobra-sobra yung paniniwala niya doon sa political or religious belief niya na nagiging violent na siya para lang yung ibang tao, para lang masabi niya, or para lang sumunod yung ibang tao doon sa paniniwalang meron siya. So those are called violent extremist offenders. So they resort to the employment of violence for the furtherance, ayan, of his or her beliefs para mapalaganap lang kung ano yung paniniwala niya, either politically or religiously, they resort to violence. So those are called violent extremist offenders. So di ba tayo, yes, we have our own beliefs, either political, religious, moral, pero itong mga VEO, sobra sila na dapat iniisip nila na, lahat dapat ng tao sumusunod sa kung ano rin yung pinaniniwalaan ko. Either kahit na gagamitan ko na sila ng dahas. So those are VEOs. So yun po yung mga inmates natin na maka-classify under maximum security. And then we have medium risk inmates. So yan na yung mga nasa medium security classification lang. So they only require a moderate, or they only pose a moderate risk to the public and staff. But still, kailangan pa rin po nila ng security and control kasi there is a possibility na baka tumakas pa rin po sila or they may commit violence inside jails. So yung mga yung mga bagong dating sa mga kulungan, naka-classify sila as maximum muna. And then, after a specific period of time, ayan, bumababa. Depende sa naging behavior nila inside jails or prison. And then we have the minimum risk inmates or mga ordinary inmates. So these are inmates na may lesser tendencies na tumakas or gumawa ng kaguluhan inside jails and prison. So these are maybe offenders na first-time offender lang siya. Ibig sabihin, parang pinakauna ng crime yung nakomit niya, no? Pero hindi ganun kagrabe. And then, they are charged with light offenses lang. So, halimbawa, estapa. Tapos, maliit lang yung amount. Tapos, first time niya pang mag-commit ng ganung crime. So, napupunta po yan, syempre, sa minimum risk inmate. Kasi estafa, wala namang violence involved on that particular crime. So, sino pa yung mga napupunta sa minimum risk? Yan po yung mga malapit ng lumaya. Say, for example, 6 months na lang, lalaya na siya. So, kung ikaw yung nakakulong, 6 months na lang, lalaya ka na, i-involve mo pa ba yung sarili mo sa kaguluhan? Tatakas ka pa ba? Di ba? Magpaplano ka pa bang tumakas kung 6 months na lang? Ayan. So, hindi na po. Kaya nilalagay po sila sa minimum risk classification. So those are the classification of inmates according to security needs. So those are examples ng mga groupings sa loob ng kulungan kung saan naka-classify sila according to their needs po, according to the treatment and rehabilitation program para sa kanila. Now we go sa Bureau of Jail Management and Penology or the BJMP. So isa po ito sa mga kabilang sa Tri-Bureau under the umbrella of the DILG together with the PNP and the Bureau of Fire Protection. So saan natin makikita ang mandato ng BJMP? Same po sa Republic Act 6975. So what is the title of RA 6975? Do you still remember? Ano po ang title ni RA 6975? Wala nang nakakaalala. Hala. Wala na guys. Pag ba kinalkal natin yung mga minds natin, hindi na natin makikita yung memory natin kung anong title ni Republic Act 6975. Hala. Wala na talaga. Charles Michael Yabut. Di mo na ba natatandaan?
Ano po ba, ma'am, yung kung kailan po na-establish yung Philippine National Police?
Medyo, pero hinahanap natin yung title. Janine Palisok, can you enlighten us?
Recognized Department of
Ano
the
po, ma'am?
Interior and Local Government.
Ayun po.
Parang yung short title niya.
Ano po yung DILG Act of 1990.
Okay, very good. So, yun po, no? Yun po yung parang otherwise known. Ayan. So, kung natatandaan nyo yung mga parts ng mga batas. So, that's correct. The Department of Interior and Local Government Act of 1990 or DILG Act of 1990. So yung kay Charles Michael, actually, that's the very specific title talaga, no? Pero yung parang short title, ayan, yun po, yung sinabi ni Janine, the DILG Act of 1990. So dati po yung tinatawag na Jail Management and Penology Service ng dating Philippine Constabulary Integrated National Police. Pero when Republic Act 6975 was enacted, ayan, ang official name ni BJMP ay naging BJMP. So it exercises administrative and operational jurisdiction sa lahat ng mga jails nationwide. So these are either district, city, municipal, or provincial jail. Pero sa mga provincial jail po, remember, they are actually under the supervision of the local government. So, ibig sabihin, halimbawa yung sa San Fernando, that's a provincial jail. So, under po siya ng supervision ng local government, province of Pampanga and city of San Fernando. So, ganun po siya. Pero still, yung parang when it comes to their administration po, under din po sila ng BJMP. So can you please read, anyone, yung mission muna po ni BJMP? Anyone? Read lang naman. Wala namang explain yan. Okay, so Luigi, go ahead.
Mission to enhance public safety by ensuring humane, safekeeping, and development of persons deprived of liberty, PDL, in all districts, city and municipal jails for their integration to society.
Okay, thank you so much. So yan po ang tawag natin ngayon sa mga inmate, detainee, prisoner. Ang tawag natin sa kanila in general is yung mga persons deprived of liberty or PDL. Because we are promoting na hindi na parang degrading yung tawag natin sa mga nakakulong at we are promoting yung mas humane na approach when it comes to treating and rehabilitating these offenders. So kaya po ang tawag na natin sa kanila ay PDL or persons deprived of liberty. And then the vision, can anyone read po yung vision? Charles Michael, go ahead.
Vision, a premier institution highly regarded by society for the secure and humane treatment of persons deprived of liberty or PDL by its competent and motivated corps.
Okay, thank you so much. So kasama po dyan yung mga jail admins natin and staff when it comes to the treatment and rehabilitations of PDL. Kasi 'di ba may role din sila when it comes to helping these offenders na magbago, ayan, helping these offenders na maka-acquire ng skills na magagamit nila once they come back to the community. So that's the BJMP mission and vision. And then objectives naman po, pakibasa nga po yung pinakaunang objectives natin, yung to improve. Marilyn Pangan, go ahead.
To improve the living condition of offenders in accordance with the accepted standards set by the United Nations.
Okay, thank you. So we have what we call the Mandela Rules or the United Nations Standard Minimum Rules for the Treatment of Prisoners. So yan po yung sinusunod ng halos lahat ng correctional facility sa buong mundo to make sure na hindi porke nakakulong itong mga taong to, hindi na natin sila tatratuhin as humans. Still po, ang aim natin, ang goal natin in the modern penology is that for the treatment and rehabilitation, hindi para parusahan itong mga offenders na to. So that's why, dapat, according to the standards set by the UN, dun sa living conditions inside jails and prison. And then, second one po, pakibasa. Medyo mahaba, but it's okay. Queen Berly Pineda, go ahead.
To enhance the safekeeping, rehabilitation, and development of offenders in preparation for their eventual reintegration into the mainstream of society upon their release, and to professionals, jail services.
Okay, thank you. So, may clear lang kasi yung sa huli, no? Ayan. So, yes po, to enhance the safekeeping, rehabilitation, and development of offenders. So sabi ko nga, we are no longer, anong tawag dito? Anong English ng kinukulong? I forgot, sorry. Imprison. So we no longer imprison offenders for the sake of punishing them only, but for the sake of their treatment and successful rehabilitation. That's why we have different programs na nasa BJMP and also Bucor, no? We have educational programs, we have work and livelihood programs na alam nating makakatulong sa kanila once they come back to the community. Kasi 'di ba, if you already have a skill na na-acquire mo during your time inside jail or prison, maaari mong gamitin yan para pagkakakitaan once na lumabas ka. So that way, you will not go back to your old way of life ng criminality. And of course, to professionalize jail services. Kasi sabi ko nga, yung mga staff, yung mga officer, yung administration, they play an important role when it comes to the rehabilitation of offenders. So dapat lang, it's professionalized. Kasi when it's professionalized, ibig sabihin, itong mga taong ito, alam nila yung ginagawa nila. So kung hindi mo kasi alam yung ginagawa mo, then you will not get the results that you want. So that's why it's important to also professionalize yung mga jail services natin. And then BJMP functions po. So, syempre, sila yung nagpo-formulate ng mga policies and guidelines na ini-implement sa lahat ng jails nationwide. And then implement strong security measures for the control of inmates and, of course, provide for the basic needs of inmates. Food, water, shelter, ayan, and so on. Conduct activities for the development of inmates. Hindi na tayo tulad ng dati na 24/7 nakakulong lang sa selda. So, mayroon tayong mga recreational programs din para sa mga PDLs natin. Kasi ayaw natin silang naiinip. Pag naiinip tayo, kung ano-anong naiisip, di ba? So, that's why, kung wala lang COVID nga, mayroong mga sports fest, mga iba't ibang programs na nakaka-boost din ng moral ng mga PDLs natin. And then, improve jail facilities, of course, and promote the general welfare and development of personnel. So, what are the principles ng BJMP? So, first, humane treatment of inmates. So, alam naman natin yan. Hindi porke nakakulong sila, hindi na natin sila itatrato na parang tao. So, hindi po ganun. And then, observance of professionalism in the performance of duties para po ito sa mga staffs and officers ng kulungan. And then lastly is multi-sectoral approach in the safekeeping and development of inmates. So when it comes to the development of inmates and also other programs, hindi lang naman sinushoulder lahat ng BJMP. So it builds partnership with government and non-government organization and also the private sector to ensure na yung mga pangangailangan ng mga PDLs natin is namimit. Hindi lang habang nasa loob sila, but also kapag lumabas sila ng kulungan. So that's why there are programs also that helps with the job placement ng mga bagong laya. Kasi 'di ba, we have stereotyping. Parang meron tayong nakalimutan ko na naman yung term. Meron tayong stigma. Ayun. Meron tayong stigma when it comes to convicted offenders even though they have already served their sentence, no? Kasi mas mahirap or mas nahihirapan silang makakuha talaga ng trabaho. So, one of the programs of jails and prisons here in the Philippines is yung magkaroon sila ng job placement. So, that's why they are in partnership with different organizations and agencies, government man or non-government or the private sectors. So, those are part of the principles ng BJMP. So, ito po ang organizational structure ng BJMP. So, Chief BJMP po, pinaka-head ng bureau. And then, meron siyang 3 deputy. Actually, kung makikita nyo, 2 lang, pero 3 talaga yan. So, we have 1 for admin, 1 for ops, and yung chief of directorial staff. So, ito yung mga directorial natin. Ayan, ito po, personal and records management hanggang kay investigation and prosecution. So ito naman yung mga sa admin services natin. Ito, program management, legal services, and so on, hanggang kay NESJO. Then we have the regional offices, jail provincial administrator office, district jail, and city and municipal jails. So remember, this is the organizational structure of the BJMP. So what are the key positions in the BJMP? So remember, di ba, ang rank and position is different. So on this particular part of the slide, alin dyan yung position and alin dyan yung rank. So nandiyan na po, nakasulat na po. So ang rank ng chief should be director. So, ibig sabihin, the position is your role in the organization. So, halimbawa, pag chief ka ng jail bureau, syempre, ikaw yung pinaka-head, ikaw nag-oversee, nagsusupervise of all personnel. So, kapag chief ka, dapat meron ka rangko na director. So, yun po ang ibig sabihin ng pagkakaiba ng position and ng rank. And then, itong mga to, these are just the requirements to become a chief, or to be able to fill in the position needed in the BJMP. So you can just read those. So paulit-ulit lang yan. May pagkakaiba lang, slight differences. And then we have the 3 deputies, admin, ops, and chief of directorial staff. Ang ranko po niyan is senior superintendent. And then yung mga regional directors, say for example, ang Pampanga, it belongs in Region 3. So meron tayong sariling regional director for BJMP. So dapat po meron niyang rank na senior superintendent. And yung mga directors ng mga directorates natin sa BJMP, yun, yung mga kanina, personal and records management, and so on. So si City Jail Warden, meron po yung rank na Chief Inspector. Si Municipal Jail Warden, yun, syempre, Chief Inspector din ang rank niyan. And then we have the duties and responsibilities of each position in the BJMP. So, si Chief BJMP, ayan, meron siyang command and supervision control sa lahat ng personnel ng Jail Bureau. And then, yun po yung parang pinaka-general. So, we'll just discuss yung pinaka-general na duties and responsibilities nila. So, Chief for Admin, of course, siya po yung parang when it comes to the assistance, kung paano or ano yung mga plans and programs na ipapatupad sa BJMP, and also yung mga policies, acquirement of personnel, logistics, and budgeting. So, sa Chief for Admin po yan. So, si Deputy Chief for Admin, siya po ang second in command. So, what does that mean? Ibig sabihin, pag absent si Chief BJMP, ang nag-a-assume po ng responsibility niya is si Deputy Chief for Administration muna. And then si Deputy Chief for Operations, siya po ang third in command. So kung absent yung dalawa, ayan, si Chief at saka si Chief for Admin, so ang nag-a-assume po ng responsibilities and duties is si Deputy Chief for Operations. So siya naman po yung sa field mismo, pagpapatupad na ng mga plans and programs and policies in the jails nationwide. So, Chief of Directorial Staff, syempre, siya po yung may supervision over the directorates ng national headquarters. And then, for personnel and records management, focus po to sa mga personnel ng BJMP officers, admin staffs, and so on. So, siya rin po ang responsible when it comes to the selection, recruitment, examination, appointment, promotion, retirement, and separation from the service ng lahat ng personnel ng BJMP. And then, for human resource naman po, yan, kung may mga concern ka about your work, ayan, planning and direction, coordination ng mga plans and programs throughout all personnels ng BJMP na kay Human Resource Department po yan. And siya rin po yung may responsibility to establish yung mga training centers sa Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. And then Directorate for Operations, so kapag during the implementation na ng mga policies, guidelines, and programs relating to security, custody, and discipline and control of inmates, ang nag-oversee po niyan, nagsusupervise at nagda-direct is si Directorate for Operations. For logistics naman po, lahat ng mga equipments, materials, supplies na kailangan, nasa kanya po ang responsibility. Controllership is about budgeting. So, when it comes to matters relating to budgeting, accounting, and financial management, na kay Directorate for Controllership po yan. And then for inmate welfare and development, so sila po yung responsible for formulating plans and programs dito naman this time para sa mga inmate. So yung sa may human resource kanina is para sa mga personnel, di ba? Pero syempre ito, inmate welfare and development, para na po yan sa mga inmates natin or PDLs. And then Directorate for Program Development. So this is for the formulation ng mga programs and plans to achieve yung BJMP missions and objectives po. So, dito yan. And then for investigation and prosecution, kasi hindi naman lahat ng mga officers ay mababait or palasunod. So, there are instances na maaring nakapag-violate sila ng mga laws, yung mga personnel ng BJMP, nakapag-violate sila ng mga rules and regulations or policies. So, ito pong Directorate for Investigation and Prosecution, siya po yung may responsibility to investigate those erring jail officer and to provide yung kanilang disciplinary actions. And then for intelligence, kasi when it comes to the security of jails nationwide, intelligence is very important. So, yan po yung nagagather ng information kung sakaling may threat to the security of jails po anywhere in the Philippines, no? So, this is to make sure na meron silang counter-intelligence activities na magagawa. So, limbawa, sa may provincial jail, no? Sa San Fernando, merong intelligence na nakuha na, may plano na itakas si ganito kasi high profile yan. Kaya naman kasi big time drug lord yan. Ayan. So kung nakakuha po sila ng ganung klaseng intelligence, at least they can already prepare for counter-intelligence activities. And then regional director, nag-oversee po, nagsusupervise ng lahat ng sakop niya sa region. Si jail warden, syempre, halimbawa naka-assign siya or siya po yung warden sa city jail, so yun lang po yung responsibility niya. So, it exercises control over sa lahat ng inmates and of course, the jail personnel. And then, syempre, meron tayong assistant warden. Balik tayo sa jail warden pala. So, he is also the one supervising the conduct of Greyhound operations. So, when we say Greyhound operations, yan po yung ginagawa ng BJMP, actually pati ng Bucor, no? To be able to confiscate yung mga contraband sa loob ng kulungan. So, what are examples of contrabands? Mga deadly weapons, mga dangerous drugs, ayan. Siyempre, example yan ng mga contraband. So, yung Greyhound operation, para siyang surprise na visit sa mga selda, tapos halongkatin po lahat ng gamit to make sure na walang contraband na nakakapasok sa loob ng mga kulungan. So, that's the Greyhound operation na tinatawag. Then si Assistant Warden, siya po ang chairperson ng Inmates Disciplinary Board. Kasi sometimes, inmates also violates rules and regulation inside jail. So, ayun po. Hindi naman agad-agad, no? Binibigyan sila ng disciplinary action. Nagkakaroon tayo ng summary investigation on those inmates. And then kapag napatunayan na nakapag-violate talaga siya, then that's the time na ando na yung role ni Assistant Warden. Siya yung chairperson po noon. And then, bago ka makulong, ano ang mga requirements? So, dapat po meron tayong commitment order from the court, from a competent court, na instructing na tanggapin nyo si ganito for safekeeping and for service of sentence. So, that's commitment order. And then, medical certificate to make sure na kung meron ka mga health issues, alam ng jail kung saan ka ika-classify. O kaya naman to make sure na, okay, dumating sa amin yan, ha? O kaya naman, okay namin ibinigay sa inyo yan, sabi ng mga polis. Para ma-make sure nila kung sakaling, may bugbog pala, may ganito, may ganyan. So, yun po ang importance na medical certificate. And it should be taken 24 hours prior to admission. And then complaint and information, we'll discuss that. What's the difference? Police booking sheet and certificate of detention from PNP and or the NBI. So, ayun, sabi ko na kanina, commitment order, written order from a competent court authorizing the agency na itong inmate na to for the purpose of safekeeping or habang nag-undergo pa siya ng trial or investigation. So, yun po ang nakapaloob sa commitment order. So, what's the difference between complaint and information? Nandito po ang difference kung sino ang nag-subscribe. So, remember, sa complaint po, ayan, ang nag-subscribe niyan is either the offended party, yung mismong naging biktima, or any peace officer po yan, or other public officer charged with the enforcement of the law violated. So, halimbawa, wait muna, bago tayo maghalimbawa. So, sa information naman, sino ang nag-subscribe? Si prosecutor na po. And it was filed with the court. So, for example, ang nag-subscribe po is si police officer na may hawak ng kaso. Is that a complaint or an information?
Complaint po,
Okay,
ma'am.
complaint. Very good. So, kasi 'di ba sa complaint, subscribed by the offended party or any peace officer or other public officer. Ayan, authorized with the enforcement of the law violated. So, that's the difference lang between complaint and information. So, they both charges a person, you accuse, no, you suspect, but ang difference lang po talaga is sino yung nag-subscribe. So, remember sa information, si prosecutor po ang nag-subscribe. Questions? Ay, sorry. May questions po ba tayo? Mga katanungan? Clarifications? Let me know kung wala so I can let you go. Meron ba? Wala, guys. Mark Joshua Basilio, may tanong ka ba?
Wala naman po, ma'am.
Mary Ann Santos, do you have a question?
Wala naman po.
Okay. So, wag po kakalimutan ang inyong quiz at 9:30.